I wanted to discuss some potential drafting concerns as it relates to state bill drafters, including those in California, and potential impact of federal law on their legislative drafting. For example, does a federal law preempt a state law dealing with the same or similar subject matter? Of course, on other occasions, a state legislature has to adopt a statute in order to implement a federal law. Nonetheless, one important factor to take into consideration is federal preemption. That's found in the US Constitution in Article 6, Clause 2. Preemption is where the federal government preempts a state law, and the intent of the state, whether they were meant to conflict with the federal law, is irrelevant to that determination. There are several different types of preemption, including express, which is where there are words in the statute that address preemption and say explicitly that preemption exists or does not exist in a particular case. The second is field preemption, where Congress intends to occupy the whole field by creating a comprehensive scheme such as immigration. Then there's conflict preemption, where federal and state laws are in direct conflict and the federal law will prevail. There's also frustrated purpose preemption, where a contrary or inconsistent state law would frustrate the federal purpose. Basically, if a state law conflicts with a federal law or the federal constitution, then of course the federal constitution or the federal statute will prevail. A second issue often is the Commerce Clause. If there's some sort of interstate commerce issue, then a state law could be preempted effectively by the federal Commerce Clause, or perhaps it interferes with the freedom of commerce amongst the different states, any of which is the potential basis for a state law violating the federal Commerce Clause. There's, of course, the Federal Equal Protection Clause to treat all individuals alike. Federal law also contains eminent domain, prohibition on the impairment of contracts, due process. There's, of course, under the Federal First Amendment, the Free Speech Clause. Under the Sixth Amendment, the right to trial by jury. Article 1, Section 10 in Clause 1 of the federal Constitution includes a prohibition on ex post facto laws. Article 1 includes the Commerce Clause provisions I mentioned earlier. And then, of course, in the 14th Amendment is the Due Process Clause. So these are just some of the federal constitutional issues that state bill drafters need to be aware of.